Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera. The road to 100 is coming in thick and fast here on Behind the Camera with episode 95 here today. And before we get into today's show, my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far, is out now. Once again, thank you to everybody who has picked up a copy. And if you would like to grab a copy for yourself, the book is available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle, and also free to read if you have Kindle Unlimited. Also, if you would like to see more of the behind-the-scenes side of the podcast, you can also support the show on Patreon. For £3 a month, you get access to extra content, including a Patreon-exclusive series, your name added to the wall of patrons at the end of every episode of Behind the Camera, and much more. And finally, if you would like to follow the show across social media, you can find my link tree in the description, which will take you to Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, and even the merch store. But now, getting into today's conversation. This week, I'm joined by award-winning TV director and documentary filmmaker Craig D. Forrest. With a career spanning over 40 years, working across more than 160 countries, Craig's approach to storytelling is like no other. To the point where there's not really anything I can say in this introduction that would simply do it any justice. So in saying that, I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. So now, here's the interview. Craig, welcome to Behind the Camera podcast. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How are we doing today?
Doing absolutely brilliant, as you would say in the UK, brilliant. And in Ireland, they would say lovely. It's absolutely lovely.
Yep.
So, Andy, it's great being on the podcast. Thank you for inviting me.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. So you're a TV director, filmmaker, media professional who've done so much over the course of a 40 plus year career. So let's just start from there. Let's talk about your background. How did you get into like media from the beginning?
Yeah, I write about it in my new book, Night Train to Cairo, that came out last September. I won a trophy when I was 16 in sports writing. And I didn't even know, Andy, this is in high school, I didn't even know that I had a writing experience. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, boom, I won the competition. I don't even remember writing my essay or my sports report really for the competition. And they go, hey, here's your trophy, you won. And I just was stunned. And I realized I realized in that electric moment that I had writing skills, and I didn't know it 5 minutes before. I did not know. I went through college, and then I really enjoyed TV and sports writing as well, and someone set up an internship for me right out of college with a group that's now called Inspiration Network, and I went, free intern, paid my own way to North Carolina, and went there. And the day after I started, they offered me a job full-time with pay. And I said, it's much better to have a job with pay than to be a free intern. And that is when I started. And I was 21 years of age with no other media experience, Andy. And they had me start out by writing promos for the network. And about a month into that, I was producing the promos, because there weren't enough people in our department to output daily promos. So I was thrown in the deep end and I swam. And so from that moment on, I have been in media pretty much for over the last 40 years. And it's a great way to start. And everyone out there, if someone offers you an internship and you could possibly do it, film, TV, media, radio, whatever it is you want to get into, if you possibly can, say yes.
That's interesting you say that, because I've spoke to a lot of people who've worked in film and TV background, and they say the same thing, like, because there's so much scope to do more than just what your job title dictates. Like, this is what I've been told, and it's like only if you show that kind of willingness to go and do it, like, you could be brought in as like a runner for something, but if you see there is somebody who might need a bit of help with anything else, and I interviewed somebody, and that's how they got into stunt work. They were a stunt man because they
Yeah.
started just working just random jobs, and then all of a sudden they kind of seen an opportunity to be like, well, do you need help with this? I can kind of, throw my hat in. And it like yeah, it's and it is such a fascinating industry. And I would implore, especially in this day and age, I would completely agree with you. I would implore anybody to kind of take what opportunity you can, because
Right.
one, it's cutthroat enough, it's hard enough. So if you get that chance, go for it.
Can
um
I can I can I give you an example of exactly that?
yeah, of course, absolutely.
Years ago, I worked uh, on a show called World of Wonder for Discovery Channel,
Mhm.
and a researcher on the show was named Debbie, and she was a researcher. She was early 20s. I actually kind of helped her along a bit. Like she couldn't quite, she figured out the 2 + 2 = 4, but she didn't have a lot of polish. She was very much starting in the industry. And 3 or 4 years later, I get a phone call, and it's from Debbie, and she moved on to another company. And she calls me up, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Yeah, I remember you, Debbie. I'm now the supervising producer on a series,
Oh, wow.
and I want to hire you to do some directing work." And I thought, Debbie, the one from 4 years ago that didn't know anything now, and I taught her. Now she's the supervising producer hiring me. So there's something to be said if you start out and you have a great attitude, just like you were talking about, Andy, have a good attitude and learn from whomever and wherever you can. The sky's the limit. People will reward hard work and good attitude.
Yeah.
It's not just talent, hard work and attitude. And so that's my Debbie story for you.
That is incredible. And I think it is just testament to the fact that, like you say, hard work is recognized, and also talent and having an eye for detail and creativity, also, because like these are things, obviously, with the creative industry, you need that innovation to kind of go
Sure.
forward as
Yeah.
well. And, your work has taken you to, well, nearly across the entire world, to over 160 countries, which is just absolutely fascinating to me. And would this be just sort of independently, or through your company Windsock Films that you ran for, got 25 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had somebody from Kenya I was on a couple, 3 weeks ago, and they said, "Tell us all the people in Africa, how did you get the money to fly all over the world and do these shoots?"
Wow.
And I said, his name was Samuel. I said, "Samuel, I had commissioned work, which is I had projects that groups wanted me to produce soup to nuts, from the first idea all the way to here's your tape, and you've got a finished product, all the way to could you go do a shoot in Nairobi?" But I had a budget, or they would ask me for a budget, and either they agreed to it or not. Usually they would agree to it,
Mhm.
most of the time. And the more I started doing international, the more I got called for doing international. It's like almost like if you were a heart surgeon, you always got called to work on hearts or knees or hips or whatever it might be. So the more international I did, the more I got called for that. And then the countries and the experiences and the assignments began to pile up. And also I would say, you know what? I've got this opportunity to do a shoot in, I'll give you an example. I was shooting for Fox Sports in California, their network on hockey, ice hockey, very popular. Wayne Gretzky was the big guy back then, famous hockey player. And I knew I was going to St. Petersburg, Russia, for a literature company that was doing basically kind of an infomercial. And I called up Bob, who was the producer for Fox Sports, and I said, I can route my ticket through Helsinki to get to St. Petersburg. They're real close. I could go a couple days early before my shoot. Do you want me to shoot something there? And he goes, "Hey, give me a day or two. Let me pitch it to the bosses." And he came back a couple days later and said, "Yes. And I'd also like you to stay on in Russia and shoot Russian hockey as segments as well." And so a trip to Russia turned into Finland and Russia just by my picking up the phone or email, whatever it was, and saying, "Bob, this is what I could do. Do you want me to do it?" And then he put me in touch with the greatest people both in Russia and Finland, and I had an absolute blast. So I began to add extra shoots to an original shoot. Sort of like I had the main dish, and all these other shoots could be the side dishes. So a lot of times, instead of just one place, I go to 4 places, and that began adding different countries to my arsenal, my resume of where I went and what I did.
Yeah. Something I was actually going to ask within that, but it's almost as if you pretty much just answered it there, was
Okay.
when it comes to doing international work and you get known for doing international work, that kind of makes it easier for you to for that kind of work to kind of keep on coming in. And I was
Yeah.
going to ask, why is that? Why is that a particular thing? Is it because of the experience you have, or? But I think as you pretty much just answered that, because of the kind of
Well,
added value that you kind of give
yeah,
with
but
being like, well, here
there's
what I can do.
a side answer. That's a good question. There's a side answer to that one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people that are going to commission you to spend thousands of pounds or dollars or euros to go somewhere are going to either go with somebody they know
Mm-hmm.
or somebody they trust that can come back with the footage and the story and whatever that might of both Russia and Finland. I shot 4 stories, 2 in Finland, 2 in Russia. Oh, yeah, I did. And so they're going to go with who they trust. And also you go with people you know that you've worked with before,
Yeah.
and you have a simpatico with each other. You know that if they hire me 99 times out of 100, I'm going to come back with a story that they can use, and that makes them happy. And so when you call them again, hopefully they answer the phone, and either they say, no, I don't need anything right now, but oh yeah, I'm sure, where are you going? Maybe we could do something. There's something else. There's another side part to that. The more international you do, the more you are in a sensitive situation. That, for example, I was supposed to do some teaching in Pakistan, talking about it. I can't go there right now because there's a war going on in Iran at the time, and the airspace is if something happens in the world and it's anywhere near, Andy, I'm going to go, or you're going to go. They're going to put it all on hold because they don't want to put anything in jeopardy. Say, you know what? Let's just hold off for now. Call me back after the war's over, or COVID is over, or there was SARS years ago in Asia. It was a
Yes. Oh, I
fever.
remember SARS.
10 years ago, whatever that was, maybe further back. And so nobody wanted me to go to Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So half the world I couldn't go to and such. So that's the delicate part of international, is that world events can really throw a monkey wrench into your future assignment.
Yeah. So what do they do in those particular positions then? Do they just completely cancel or reschedule projects, or do they take that into a more local aspect where, like, if they have people in that kind of area, they will get them to do that in the safest environment possible?
Yeah, it goes either one of 2 ways, and you sort of hit on it. One is, if the international isn't looking good for the moment, they'll say, forget it.
Yeah.
Let's just go, let's go for England, say, we'll just shoot in Birmingham. We'll just shoot in Glasgow. We'll just do that. We'll go to Truro out in Cornwall. And we're just going to stick close because we can get those shoots done and get footage and stories and such.
Yeah.
The other way around it is they may say, I need a Pakistan shoot done. Does anyone know someone in Pakistan? We'll just hire them to do the shoot. But that gets dicey, because if you haven't worked with that crew in Nairobi or Pakistan or Bangkok, whatever, they may not shoot the footage and the story the way you want it, that matches what's in your show. And so it's a little bit easier now because you can look at their reel. You can see how they've done it. They can see, through links on the internet, hey, this is our show. See the style we have. Tell me if you can do it. But back 20, 30 years ago, the web wasn't as strong, and you'd have to send them a tape or a shot list by fax machine back when everyone was using, I know, with fax machine. So it's much easier now. You can just put in a little direct message to somebody, and as long as they're not asleep at night, if they read it, and especially if it's potential work, I would tell you, if it's potential work, people get back to you right away.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's something I've learned in the podcasting game, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like you will either
yeah.
get immediate responses or sometimes they can wait. But yeah, that's very
Now,
true.
if there's a potential assignment, they'll get back to you. If it's, hey, do you want to get together 3 Tuesdays from now for dinner or a pint or something? It's like, I'll get back to you later.
Yeah.
That's not work.
No, that's very much it. I'll get back to you in 2 weeks and 6 days from now, kind of thing.
That's if I remember.
Yeah, exactly. That's the important one right there.
Yeah.
So, in your experience then of going across the world, all these different countries for work, has there been like a balance of work that has sort of come your way from like all these different stations and networks, for example, versus on the other hand, where you kind of pitched an idea through your company to be like, there could be a story to be told in this particular country. Would you
Oh
like
yeah,
me to shoot this and
yeah.
sell it to you, kind of thing?
It really does go both ways. By having my own little production company, which is basically me, I'm the one with the computer, and then back then I had camera gear and I could do it. Now I don't take camera gear at all because I can hire somebody
Mm-hmm.
with camera gear to meet me there, or I hire somebody locally. But basically, it went both ways, Andy. It would be okay. I had one project on religions of the world, and it took me 3.5 years to do that project.
Wow.
And I shot it, directed in 32 countries over three and a half years worth of time. So I basically booked myself. I had project money, and this was soup to nuts. Write the script all the way to organize and produce the shoot and hire my cameraman or cameramen at different times. We had 3 or 4 different cameramen over 4 years, and get to the scene and do the shoot and such. And then there's other times where people just called me and said, hey, somebody recommended, and would you be available to do this industrial shoot or this corporate shoot, which actually corporate and industrial shoots can pay very well. They
Yeah.
may not be sexy, but I directed commercials for McDonald's in America, web commercials. And it was the best money I've ever made per week because commercials pay very, very well. Uh, and somebody called me out of the blue. Are you available? It's because I've been recommended to someone in the know, someone who was a decision maker.
Mhm.
And so, in saying all that, it went both ways. I would pitch sometimes, or the phone would ring.
Yeah.
It went both ways, and it was seasonal. Mostly, it was spring and fall, and for a while there, December was my most quiet month. And for a number of years in a row, I got December shoots and assignments. And I think I figured out that there was money left in the budget for that group that had to be spent by December 31. So it's like if we don't spend it now for this video shoot, we lose it on January 1. I think that's what went on. So I had a number of Decembers in a row that kept me alive during winter. I thought, this is interesting. There's something going on here. Yep, true story.
Yeah, brilliant. It's amazing. So I'm curious about the shooting commercials for like, especially for like global corporate brands as well, because
Right. Yeah.
it's no matter what way you look at it, whether it's like a documentary or like a TV
Mhm.
commercial, it's storytelling. It's just sort of how
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
portrayed. And
Yeah.
let's say you have work commissioned to you that a company reached out to you for, and then at the same
Yeah.
time you have like the say McDonald's advert, for example. How do you compare the sort of levels of storytelling where like you have one that's a particular brand trying to sell something, the story doesn't really change, it's more just how it's told,
Yeah.
versus like a documentary where like, well, for example, like you've worked on many documentaries before, you probably could give a better example, but like how do you sort of find the differences in the storytelling based around those two pieces of work?
What's interesting? You made me think of a couple of observations or ideas. Um, it was Ogilvy and David Ogilvy and Mather. I think it was Dave Ogilvy back in the 40s. He wrote this letter. I'm going to start my own agency because we've lost our souls, and
Mm-hmm.
we're doing advertising and selling shaving cream or whatever. And he says, it's a line I never forgot. He wrote in his letter. He says, after all, all advertising is persuasion.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, he's right.
Mm-hmm.
Advertising is there to persuade you to buy a product or engage someone to give you a service of some sort or an experience. And I in my classes, I will say this: going to Disneyland or Disney World or Euro Disney is not persuasion, it's an experience. Or Norwegian Cruise Lines, something like that. That is not persuasion. That is not, oh gosh, what's the, it's not a service, it is an experience. I'm selling you a service, a Mediterranean cruise, transatlantic cruise, a ride on the Matterhorn with your kids. That's an experience. But then other things are products. I'm going to sell you some shaving cream because I know you're going to need it.
Yeah.
And ours is the best, and we're running a promotion right now. The other is a service. Our lawyers, our solicitors will get you out of jail. Now that is a service to get you out of jail, and please call us Call us on this number. Ring us straight away on this. Now, getting back to the storytelling part. I am so blessed in that I have worked in so many different genres: documentaries, music videos, commercials, industrials, corporate. I've done fundraising pieces for orphanages and water wells and community development, terrorism, and schools for the impoverished. I could probably give you 15 or 20 different types of stories or genres I've done in the past. Spiritual engagement. I've directed on voodoo and some things like that for A&E that were Emmy nominated projects. Now that's really getting your hands dirty when you're doing shoots in Haiti on voodoo and such. But they were all so different, Andy, that I never got bored.
Yeah.
I never got bored. It was like these little mosaic tiles. And I'm working with this one mosaic to put it together with another mosaic theme-wise, that when I stepped back and looked at all the little mosaic tiles, I thought, this is cool. There's a pattern going on here. There's a blue one over there and turquoise over here and ruby red. And when I step back from it, those are all the colorings of stories that I did across the world. I was almost never bored. There was always sports, did lots of sports, mostly hockey and some boxing. I mean, some big time Riddick Bowe and some of these guys back in the day. I mean, these were prize fighting guys for the big money and in Las Vegas kind of stuff. So I've done, and some Olympic work as well. So it's been a lot of fun, and I approach each story as a sponge. I want to soak up what this story can give me, and hopefully we'll have some fun. Hopefully we have some fun doing it.
Yeah. That's honestly one of the best takes I've ever heard on that type of storytelling compared to different lines of work, because I've heard before that like corporate and big global brands, in terms of their advertising, for example, can be very, very restrictive, because ultimately you have it's a message that's been sent down to different levels to be like, this is the story we want to tell, hash it out here, but ultimately we want to sell a product, like you mentioned.
Right.
Whereas you go for a music video, it's music videos are particularly interesting because they're just like one step above like a TV advert, where you have a story to tell, but you have like only just a little bit longer. You've gone from that 30 to 60 second to maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes kind of thing, and then
you're promoting the song, and you're promoting the artist, or the group. And I've done those as well. I've done 7 or 8 of those. And the music label can be really kind of tight with you as to how they want their artist or their group portrayed. And they're going to have some opinions. And that also comes down to the storytelling. The story you want to tell may be completely different artistic vision than what the record label wants you to tell, because they want to sell downloads. And back in the day, they wanted to sell CDs and things like that. Now it's all streaming and buying it on iTunes. etc., and Google Play and all that. So when you are dealing with ad agencies are really tough. There's so many layers. And also they're going to have many times the ad agencies and the corporations are going to have lawyers that have to look over the script to make sure that that one person or that one line in the voiceover doesn't say a word that could get them sued or overpromise. Oh, I had to deal with that all the time. You have to realize that if you get 80%, 80% of your artistic vision on the screen, you did pretty well. Because the other 20% of what the ad agency, the record company, the lawyers, and the corporate insisted must be up on the screen as well. So if you got 80, 75, 85, 80% of your original vision up there, you did good. Anything more than that, and it's like icing on the cake.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Really interesting to hear. Like,
You never get to do it all by yourself.
no, for sure.
Very, very rare. Very rare.
You know, because I've seen a music video being filmed before. But this was for like an independent band years ago. It was actually one of my brothers was in a band back in the day, and I think this was about 15 years ago. And it was a sort of thing. It's like we've got this kind of warehouse here that we use for our practice space. We're gonna turn it into a location for a music video.
Yeah.
So we just need a crowd to make it look like there's like a live show.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the I think I was there for about 5 hours, and there's maybe about 10 different shots of over maybe 10 seconds, like, you know, different shots of like the crowd in the bit that I was kind of a part of. And it's
Yeah.
very interesting because all the rote work kind of goes into this sort of other thing. It's just, it is so fascinating, but it's very interesting to know that like the record label has like that much of a stamp on it. Like I Jenny would have known that. So would you say then that you kind of relish in the challenge of how to get the story out based on the kind of time frame you have, going from like an advert, like a 30 to 60-second advert, right
Yeah.
up to like a 90-minute, 2-hour documentary type thing?
Sure. I'm going to bring in something that will make sense to almost everybody. Andy, is that it's is as much fun when you're working with people that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. That there's no straining, no fisticuffs, no fighting over things, no tug of war.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working with people that you really like and you share an artistic vision. And a lot of times those are people that you've worked with before, and you can almost talk to each other in a shorthand because you have a history with each other.
Yeah.
And over again, the people that I would bring onto a shoot are people that I knew well. Some of them I'd known 10, 20 years. And I didn't need to tell them much. I showed them the storyboards, or I'd say, okay, we're going to start this. We're going to do a wide shot, go through the whole thing. Then we're going to go in for close up, go in closer, and then we're going to get close in on that. And they knew what I was talking about because we spoke the same language and we knew each other. What's difficult is when and I've had this happen a couple of times and it didn't work out well. I had a crew for a music video. I was the director, and not one person on that crew was out of town. And I didn't have the money to fly in all of my own crew. I had to use local crew. I didn't know any of them. None of them. And also I realized, and it was in Nashville, I realized that I had a shoot I could have done in one day in LA, but how things worked out for goods and services and people, it required 2 days in Nashville. And I didn't realize it until I was halfway through the first day. I am going into overtime and we are going to be negative on the cost. And another one was a commercial I did. Not one person was anyone I had ever worked with. Not one of them. And I had to go through a production company and three ad agencies and a company that were all had knives out. They all did not want this shoot to be a failure. Their livelihoods were, that's one of the toughest shoots I've ever done. So if you can have fun, I'll give you another one. Most of my shoots overseas, Andy, were with 2 or 3 people on the crew. 2 or 3. I did a shoot in Uganda years ago, and my friend Rick went along with me as a cameraman. We had a sound guy named Dennis that met up with us in Washington, D.C., and we flew to Uganda. It was for the United Nations and a group called Samaritan's Purse, a humanitarian. This is food to refugees kind of thing, food and clothes and fresh water, clean water and all that to refugees. Really noble shoot. Well, we were done every day because we were in a rebel-infested area up in a place called Lira, L-I-R-A, Lira, Uganda, up near the border in the north. And the United Nations did not want to be on the road with all their UN trucks up north. And at 3 o'clock, they say, all right, it's going to take us an hour to get back to the main city from the refugee camp, and we're leaving now. So we basically worked from about 10 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. That was our work day. And then we get back to our little hotel, clean little hotel, with Dennis and with Rick. And we sit around and drink sodas and hang out and talk and swap stories for 2 or 3 hours. And about 6:30, we would say, you want to go in for dinner? Yeah, let me go freshen up. I'll meet you in 15 minutes. And we had the biggest blast and got paid well for about 5 hours, 5 hours a day of shooting. But what I remember most, Andy, was how much fun it was doing the shoot with both Rick and Dennis. We had a blast, and I would go back to those kinds of places with those two guys any day of the week, twice on Tuesday, kind of a thing. When you're working with people that you get to know and that you like, and also are professional, there's a time to work and there's a time to have fun.
Yeah.
And I'd rather work, and then the fun is more interesting afterwards because you got your work done and the client's happy.
Yeah.
Now we can go hang out on a beautiful African night in the sun's going down at 6:30, drink our little Fanta orange drinks and talk and laugh our butts off. So this is not anyone out there. Hello across the world. This is Craig and Andy on his show, his wonderful show. What I'm saying is I'd rather have fun than to be in the depths of hell with the group. I write about that in my Night Train to Cairo book. I did a shoot in Japan years ago, and in the first day, it began to be the different levels of hell, and I still had 6 more days to go with levels of hell, and I couldn't just get on the plane and go, no, I'm out of here. So I'd rather be with people that are good and professional.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So just before we move on then, when it comes to working with people, let's say you get work commissioned, like a company reach out to you, they reach out to your company to produce something. Do you make sure that you have that kind of full license to bring on your own people who you know and trust, or does it ever become an issue where these companies would be like, we have these guys who we would like to work with you, or is there kind of a bit of give and take in that?
Yeah, there's a give and take. I haven't been asked that question in probably a very long time. There's a give and take to that. Usually I will insist very early on, hey, I've got my crew.
Mm-hmm.
I can depend on them. I know their prices. We can go to Uganda and come back with the footage that you need and that you want. And you won't be disappointed. But occasionally people will say, I really want this person on the crew or that. I tell you one that is really kind of dicey is when I've done a lot of shoot for faith-based groups, and somebody will have a daughter or a son that they want to put onto the shoot to learn. And didn't happen too often, but now and again, the reason they put them on the shoot was to learn from me and from the crew. And then they would next shoot get rid of us, and they'd hire the son or the daughter to do the shoot. They figured, how hard is it? My son and my daughter know everything now. They learned from Craig, Rick, and from Dennis, and we don't have to hire the expensive guys anymore. And I'm going to tell you, almost every time, the next shoot with only the son or the daughter was a disaster. A disaster, because they didn't really, they were professionals, they were learners.
Yeah, and no 2 days are the same when it comes to filming and everything like that.
That's old English expression, penny wise, pound foolish.
Yeah, like I think there's certainly lessons to be learned there. You know, like
Yeah,
because when it comes to filming, no matter what it is, you have good days and bad days. There's a lot of
yeah.
things that like a lot of variables, and yeah, I think there's always a sort of thing. It's not necessarily just sort of stepping behind the camera, making sure the angle, the lighting's fine, and hitting record. It's not always that simple. Yeah.
I've said to people, well, professionally and in some of my film and TV seminars, I, I, I learned it from another director of photography. He says, if you can keep 8 out of your 10 clients happy, you did pretty good.
Mhm.
You, everyone listening out there and watching, you can't keep everybody happy. It's impossible. You can't do it. It could break up for any kind of reason. And even things that you didn't know were happening. You know, it's things are slipping away from you, whatever it might be. If you keep 8 out of 10 people happy, you did pretty good.
Good to know. That really is good to know. So you mentioned a couple of times as well about your book that you have out from last September, Night Train to Cairo. So I just wanted to touch on this and obviously your upcoming works as well. It feels like a kind of nice full circle moment with the book that you've got out and the ones coming out, considering how you started inadvertently with writing with your original trophy, now to
Yeah.
having like published works coming out. So Night Train to Cairo, as you mentioned, came out September last year. So what can you tell us about this and then your upcoming book this year, Road to Machu Picchu? Are these based on your
Actually,
experiences and
no, Road to Machu Picchu will be next
will
year.
be next year?
Um,
Okay.
I moved one of my book projects up, that by the time any of you in the audience and the viewers, it's called Through the Wire, and it is my grandfather's story of World War I in the
Wow.
trenches in France. And I live in northern France, my wife and I, and we're only a 45-minute drive, maybe 55 minutes away from where my grandfather in December of 1916 was wounded by a mortar shell in the trenches of northern
Oh,
France
wow.
in an area called Vimy Ridge, which was featured in the movie 1917 by Sam Mendes.
Wow.
It's the same area, and my grandfather was there just a few months. He got wounded in his leg, went back to England to recuperate. But 4 months later, that is where the movie 1917 is set. So my grandpa was in the exact same dirt and earth
Wow.
and trenches that 1917 is in. So when I watched 1917, I thought, oh my goodness. I actually walked out. It was a matinee. I was in California. I walked out watching 1917, and I said, I don't want to go home right away. I went over to the Irish pub that was about 200 yards away, and I said to the bartender, I said, I need a pint. He goes, what? I just saw 1917. He says, I've seen it too. You do need a pint. Heart or Guinness, whatever it was, I don't remember. And we talked about, the place was almost empty at 3 o'clock. And we sat and talked for about him across the bar and me sitting there about 1917. The
Wow.
book is called Through the Wire.
Mm-hmm.
Through the Wire. It's my grandfather's story fighting for Canada with the British and the French in World War I. And by the time you see this, this airs with Andy, it will be out and available on Amazon. And I really poured research in my grandfather's story. And it's a historical novel because there's some gaps in my grandpa's story because he's passed away.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of those quiet types. He didn't tell you everything. I learned more from grandma about grandpa going to war than I did from grandpa. But I kept really good notes, and I spent about 5 months writing it, 2, 3 hours a day, maybe 4 sometimes. And Through the Wire is the next one that's coming out, and it'll be out by the time Andy uploads this podcast. A Night Train to Cairo is my memoirs of across the world, and it's about Through the Wire is about 200 pages. Night Train to Cairo is a little over 300, and it's my memoir of travel. And I break it up into India and the Middle East, North Africa, Europe, all these different places, South America a little bit, being robbed on the road, being sick in a hotel room, and sick in an airplane, and you're dreariest. You just want to get into a hotel room, get off the plane, and get into the city. And it's hopefully a fascinating read. It's gotten some great reviews. It's in paperback, and it's in hardcover as well. And it's also a Kindle and an iBook, Night Train to Cairo. All you have to do is type in Craig D. Forrest. D is for David. Craig D. Forrest, Forrest. It'll pop up on Amazon. And I have also a book on filmmaking called Commando Tactics for Digital Filmmakers. That was my doctoral thesis. I turned it into a good film book, and it'll be on there as well. So I point you to that, and hopefully, and I believe they're good reads. I enjoyed writing them, and I have another children's book. I have a children's book coming up called Bugsy the Brave Butterfly, but we are shopping for an agent at this point. So it's about ready to go, but it won't be out until late in the year. So I'm giving you a little scoop, Bugsy the Brave Butterfly. And you can find me at craigforrest.com, Craig Forrest, no D, craigforrest.com. And there's actually some pictures of Bugsy the Brave Butterfly on there. If you click on it, you'll see all the characters and some of the panels. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, that is fantastic stuff. Yeah, that's so you swapped then Through the Wire and Road to Machu Picchu. So Road to Machu Picchu is now coming out next year, and in place
and
of
those
Through
are
the
all.
Wire. Yeah,
I have a whole. Oh my goodness, Andy, I've got all these stories I didn't have time to tell in my Night Train to Cairo book. And so what I did is I made a long list, and whenever I would think of, oh yeah, there's a story I needed to tell, or there's a story from the Congo in Africa I didn't have room to tell in Night Train to Cairo. So put it in the Machu Picchu book, because there's room for that one. It's a brand new book, but it's continuing stories. Yeah. Great Wall of China, Bangkok, sex trap. I've done all these shoots on sex trafficking in the past. We never even got to that. Maybe some other time. That'll be a fun book, but I'm a little tired of my memoirs, so I'm going to do that next year.
No, do you know what? It's completely fair, and like I think it's interesting to kind of break it up like that.
I can do whatever book whenever I want to do
it. Exactly, yeah. And it is good to kind of break it up like that, like, because whenever you come to writing something new, there's always going to be like reference points that you might have that you remind yourself when you're putting in other stories and all these things like link. And it's, like that's the sort of thing I find fascinating about that, is because the scope of the stories you can tell. And now let's be real, you don't go to over 160 countries and don't have many stories to tell. That's just not a thing, is it?
No, I'm going to tell you, I had a goal in my late 30s. I had gone to like 60 some countries by then. And I had like one of those life goals. I said, you know what? I'd like to get to I'm not far away from it. I'd like to get to 100 countries by the age of 50.
Okay.
Age 50, 100 countries. The mathematics seemed to be pretty good. And I got there by age 42.
Wow.
And it's in my Night Train book. I was literally on the edge, the border of Tanzania and Zambia, in the middle of nowhere. We stopped for lunch. I was doing literally a safari shoot, a big game safari shoot. Stopped for lunch on a Sunday. I write about this in Night Train to Cairo. I said to the driver, "What's that border over there?" "Oh, it's Zambia." "Right over there, 200 yards, 300 yards?" "Well, yeah, that's Zambia." Wow. "I've never been." "You think I could just dip my toe onto the other side?" Goes, "Well, you could ask him, but I can't promise you he's going to let you in." I finished lunch, and we weren't ready to leave quite yet. And I said, "I'll be back in 5 minutes." I walked down to the gate, and all these tribal people are walking back and forth across the border. And there's a little passport hut right out of an old Bwana Serengeti, Masai Mara kind of thing. And I showed my passport. I said, "Can I just walk to the guard?" He was a black Zambian. And I said, he spoke English. I said, can I just step foot? He said, no, you need a visa.
Oh, wow.
I said, what? I need a visa? Yeah, you must have a visa. I said, how about all these tribal people walking back and forth? They have passports and visas. You need a visa. And I did something pretty bold. People out there, please don't get mad at me. I pulled up my sleeve and showed him my white arm. I go, oh, I see, skin tax. Skin tax with a big smile. I go, so the white guy has to have a visa, but the Zambia tribal people don't. And I did it with a smile. And he looked at me, and then he gave me the biggest smile. He goes, I said, I'm only going 50 feet. He goes, go. I walked over and I jumped in and I go, da-da, and smiled and got this. And he thought, this is the stupidest white man I have ever met in my life. And I walked back and I said, thank you. And what I didn't know, because I had miscalculated by countries by a couple, I had just literally jumped into my 100th country when I walked across. And I didn't know it till I got back. And weeks later, I counted, that was my 100th country. True story.
That is fantastic. I love the fact that you realized after all of that, because that is a great story in itself. But the fact that that was country number 100 and like what you did to get into that is incredible.
And I couldn't have made that up if I had tried. It was real. Yeah. And I am part of a club called Travelers Century Club. You can look it up, Travelers Century Club, and you have to have been to 100 countries to join. And they have social events all over the world in different chapters. I was part of the Southern California chapter, and every quarter we meet at this really nice steak restaurant or seafood, and we'd have a little cocktail hour. We have a nice meal. Somebody would they do announcements, and they'd have a speaker. One time I was a speaker for the group. Prime rib dinner. Oh, good thing. They know how to have a good lunch. I'm going to tell you that. And there are 330 countries and territories across the world. 330. 193 United Nations countries, but 330 island groups. The Polynesia and Easter Island, places off the beaten track and all of that. And I know a few people that have been to all 330.
Wow.
They've literally been to every place pretty much that you can go in the world. And that takes time, determination, and it's going to take some money.
Oh, for sure.
It's not that important to me. I'm happy with however I'm blessed.
Well, of course. But that's even still, most people don't make it to even 20 or 30 countries like that.
A lot of people don't have passports.
Yeah, and even people from the States as well. I know
only 33, only 33 or 34% of Americans have a valid passport.
Yeah, that's insane. I know so many people from America who have some who've never left the country, which isn't the most unusual thing, as you just said, but then also people who've never left their state.
They say the average Americans only been to between 3 to 5 states.
Wow.
And that's not how you see the world.
No. And it is quite an interesting thing that, because I mean, myself, I live in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is you could throw a stone and you're on the other side of the country. It's tiny, but I've had people say to me before, with America, some states are like different countries, and to a degree, I would agree from what I know about America, but I almost kind of wonder. Now, you'd be able to attest to this because obviously you've lived in America and now you live in Europe. Is there a sort of element where you can travel America in the same way that you can travel Europe, in terms of it's so easy to navigate and get around? You can get a flight, and a 2-hour flight, and in America you're either in the same state or you're maybe one state over, but you can go across a lot of Europe. You can see so many different countries in the same way you can see so many different American states.
Yeah, I think I've spent about 9 or 10 years of my adult life overseas, away from America. Now I'm going 3.5 years living in Europe, which is comfortable to me. I used to live in Belgium many, many years ago when I was in my 20s. So I'm used to living in France now and in Europe. In America, there's so many places you can just drive to,
Yeah.
and you'll be across a state line, and you can drive for 4 hours and maybe hit a couple of states. And we did a drive, Rebecca and I, my wife, we did a drive. We were gonna drive from Holland to France
Hmm.
on a Sunday, and we drove through four countries on a Sunday.
Yep.
Holland, Luxembourg, a part of Belgium, and then we got down to Nancy, France, and stopped to take a break, stay overnight, see a great friend, a girlfriend of Rebecca's, and go out to dinner. And I went through, and each of those, Holland's going to speak Dutch, Belgium is going to speak Flemish, and then you get further south, they're going to speak Wallon or French, Belgian, and then you're in France.
Yep.
And so that's the difference between America, is going across states. You're not going to usually go to a state where they speak a different language.
Yeah.
It's still going to be English, and that's just the way it is. I wish Americans, other than going to Hawaii I wish they would really go out and see the world, but sometimes it comes down to vacations and family, money, and you also have to have a desire.
Oh, big
Go,
time.
yeah, you have to have a desire to go see another culture, and such. And both of our kids, Andrew, who lives in Germany, and Annie, who lives in Phoenix, but they're both very well traveled,
Hmm.
very, very well traveled. And it's because I gave them the gift of travel.
Yeah.
I took them to their first trips. I took them to Paris and London, and I write about that too. Dad took one of them on my own and took them to Europe, England and Europe.
Incredible. So, what was then the decision that kind of led you to living in Paris, especially from California of all places?
Yeah.
Was that just because you'd been so traveled and there was something that stuck out? Obviously, we mentioned about Through the Wire and the sort of connection there. Was that like heavily influenced?
A little bit. Part of it is that as we were coming out of COVID in 2022, I had so many invitations to speak at media seminars and breakout sessions at conferences on media, film, TV, video, social media, media as communication. And I kept, in 2022, flying long distances from California across oceans.
Yeah.
And I come back just exhausted. And Rebecca and I said, you want to just move to Europe? We're at the age where we can sell the house. We had a bed and breakfast that we managed, and it was doing well, but it wasn't as much fun anymore.
Yeah.
So we sold everything, packed up everything, moved to Europe, and went to Provence. We were renting, and then we found this little cozy apartment north of Paris that was reasonable enough because it had been empty for 10 years. And the real estate agent said, please buy it. Please, please. It's been empty for 10 years. I'm tired of hanging onto these keys. Please buy this apartment. And the price had just plummeted. We go, okay, need some paint, some touch up, got to work on this, work on that, but it's doable. So we've been here a little over a year, and this is our base. And I'm on the board of a media charity in the United Kingdom. And so being near Paris, I can take the Eurostar under the channel, and it's very easy and faster to go on Eurostar to London that way than to go to the airport and fly and all of that. So logistically, it worked out pretty well. And it worked out well, and we're happy here.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it makes sense, especially with having traveled so much, and obviously with your line of work, and even going into the sort of speaking work that you do, the traveling just never stops. Like once it's like we go back to what we mentioned before. Once you're known for doing that one particular thing, and in your case, that is kind of working internationally.
Yeah.
Where does it end?
Can I ask you? I had forgotten the fact that you live in Northern Ireland. Do you live in Belfast?
I'm about 30 miles south of Belfast. Yeah.
There is the most famous pub in Belfast. It's called the Crown Saloon, and it is across the street from the Europa Hotel.
Yes, that's right.
And the Crown Saloon is over 150 years old. And the Europa Hotel, everyone, these troubles are over with, okay? Relax. The Europa Hotel was the most bombed hotel in Belfast. And all of my Brit friends, don't get mad at me. Don't send me an email, because that's where the British stayed and the IRA kept blowing it up.
Yeah.
Okay, but I actually had a pint at the Crown Saloon because I had to say that I had been there. And the worst fish and chips I have ever had in my life. There was so much oil on the fish and chips. You could have drained the oil off the fish and put it into your car engine. There was that much oil.
Do you know, it's somewhere I've never been in there before. And like I work in Belfast, but I've never been in there before. Like, I mean, I've been to the Europa.
Oh, you got to do it.
Plenty of times, but never been in the Crown. I think so. I think so. There's that and Robinson's as well, which is right across the road. They're both two kind of equally, in terms of being known. That's incredible. That's incredible. But on that note, Craig, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on Behind the Camera podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. Just before we wrap up, I would just sort of like to give you the floor just to sort of plug yourself and your work. Where can the listeners find it? It would all be in the show notes, but it would be nice just to hear it from you first.
Excuse me. You can usually find me, and I love Instagram the most, but you can usually find me at Craig D. Forrest. At Craig D. Forrest will bring up everything. If you follow me on Instagram, I will follow you 9 times out of 10. And so that's where you can, craigforrest.com, no D, craigforrest.com. And you can find me there. YouTube is at Craig D. Forrest. Those are the basic places to find me. And I would say to anyone watching or listening to Andy's podcast, subscribe. Please subscribe, because that helps him continue to create a following. And you'll know with a subscription when the next episode is coming, is being uploaded and dropped. I can't believe that. You upload and you drop it. But subscribe so that he can build an audience base, and he can keep hopefully I just showed up, hopefully interesting guests as he goes, and he's a good host, and it has been, Andy, an absolute pleasure, a blast. It's really has been a conversation, and that's fun.
No, I really, really appreciate the kind words. That is exactly kind of what I want Behind the Camera to be. Just a conversation, just kind of, shooting the breeze. And, I think it's the best way for, myself and the audience to get to know like amazing guests like yourself. So once again, Craig, thank you so much for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And in Ireland, Northern Ireland, it's been lovely. And in England, it's been brilliant. And I think in other parts it's called splendid. So there you go.
Of course. Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And there you have it for episode 95 of Behind the Camera. Huge thank you to Craig D. Forrest for being this week's guest and for sharing his story. If you enjoyed what you heard and would like to hear more, you can check out more of Craig's work, including his books, in the links in the description. Massive thank you to all patrons. Your support is always appreciated, and as always, if you'd like to stay connected with Behind the Camera, you can also find all of my links in the description, including socials, merch, and for my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far, out now. Thank you for listening, for the support, and for being part of the journey. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.